Welcome to this final panel. We are at the end of our day and a half meeting, which I think was very productive. And while our panelists are taking their seats, I want to say that it is clear from the discussions that we had during this day and a half that we are building nothing less than a critical infrastructure. Critical infrastructures are the basis for our society. Normally they are in telecommunications, as we're talking about, but also transportation and energy. But what we're saying is that 5G will also be fundamental for transportation and energy, which means it becomes the critical infrastructure of critical infrastructures. And means that security, as we have discussed in the previous session, will be of fundamental importance. And also the fact that the success of this system is critical for society and not only for the businesses which are related to that. I also want to take this chance to thank our organizers, Chris Pearson, Vicky Livingstone, and all the team for organizing this event, which I believe was very successful. So thank you very much for that. And one final comment before we introduce our panelists is that we're witnessing collaboration at international level. This is a global event. Multilateral MOU has been signed by the organizations that are behind this event. And it's I think, almost unique example of collaboration and harmonization at global level. And I think that it should be taken as an example also at political level. So I'm very proud of what has been done and is being doing in this event. Now, the topic of this panel is the future of 5G, and we have a very qualified panel of experts that I'm going to introduce, starting from my left here, Dr. Simone Redana. He's the head of Mobile Network Architectures and Systems Research Group at Nokia Bell Labs, and he's also the chairman of one of the 5G PPP working groups, the one on architecture. So thank you, Simone, for joining us. I know you were busy yesterday in another part of the state, but you traveled to come here. Then we have Madame Wang, Zhiqin Wang. She's been introduced before. She's the soul of the Chinese support for 5G. She's a very important responsible person in the IMT 2020 promotion group, but also Vice President of the China Academy of Information and Communication Technology. Then we have Dr. SunCheol Gweon. He's president of Giga Korea Foundation. Giga Korea Foundation is really the operating arm of the ministry in Korea to support industry and the whole ecosystem working towards the realization of 5G. So thank you for being here. Then we have Dr. Norin. He's program management for international 5G research programs for Ericsson Research. So Max is really working on both sides of all oceans, I would say. It's working in Europe, working in the US and in Asia, trying to develop 5G research from the Ericsson point of view, so the vendor's point of view. And not only we have government support, we have vendors, but we also have an operator, and Takehiro Nakamura is really the star of this morning because he's been part of all sessions. And so I don't need to introduce him, I guess. So thank you, Takehiro, for your... Okay, so this is not a panel with presentations, so you've seen enough presentations in this day and a half. It's only going to be questions and answers, so please prepare your questions and answers, but I will break the ice starting with Simone. Simone is an expert in the 3GPP works, so we are almost closing now, freezing release 15, and we've been talking about the importance of vertical industries for the success of 5G. So the first question to Simone is the following. Do you see that release 15 is complete from the point of view of supporting vertical industries, or are there any gaps that will be filled in release 16? Simone, please.
Yes, thank you for the question. So I would say definitely release 15 is not complete to support the verticals. So release 15 is a first step to support the verticals. So as you know, in the design of release 15, we had also various acceleration with a clear focus to have a version ready initially with the support of EMBB. So I would say the major use case for release 15 is definitely EMBB. But there are already some work done with some specific features which are already looking beyond that and already support some requirements of the verticals. So this looking also to the work specific in TGVP and in the various working group. So for example, RAN, the radio has been already designed to support low latency. It can already support, for example, multi-connectivity. So these are initial steps also to support verticals. If you look, for example, also to the 3GPP SA, so with the introduction of network slicing. So network slicing, I think, is an essential technology in order to support and guarantee the QS for the verticals. Service-based architecture is another step that has been introduced in SA2. So I would say release 15 is an initial step to support the verticals, but we have quite a lot of work now to be done in release 16 and 17, and the only way to do it is really to discuss with the verticals and understand their requirements and design the future according to that.
Okay, thank you, Simone. So if there are any questions on this point, but this means that since we are talking about trials, and I would like to ask Madame Wang about the trials in China, and trials are involving verticals, but the standard for a vertical support is not complete yet. That means that the solutions that we are proposing may be somewhat proprietary, somewhat ad hoc. So I would like to see or hear your opinion, Madame Wang, on what China is right now doing in the trials with verticals, and when do you think that the solutions will be interoperable? Because we've heard about interoperability from Chile yesterday. So please, what is your opinion on this?
I think right now in China, the 5G technical trial is, how to say, is just it's a very general, so very basic testing. So we cannot say it's just for vertical. Since from year 2016, we started the 5G technical trial, and we just verify the key technologies and system design. So especially for the last year, we just verified the 5G system architecture can be satisfied with different kind of scenario, with very basic functions I can see. And since right now, since I think discuss this issue for the what is the applications can be really commercial use in the first phase, mostly everybody says EMBB. So right now I think the most valuable things right now in China for 5G technical trial is we do some work for the industrial harmonization. That means we define some common specifications for all this equipment. That means it can be treated as a roadmap for technical or product from the China market. So for example, right now in 3GPP, 5G standards, we just think is in a very rush hour, and how to say, there's too many options right now to suitable for different kind of scenarios. So it's very difficult for the manufacturers to have a same understanding about the specifications. And so right now, what we are doing right now is to try to define some common specifications. For example, the frame structures. So we just want to find one or two frame structures which is more suitable to EMBB or URC, and get all these manufacturers have a same understanding about the specifications, and to develop the equipment, especially at the early stage, to have a better understanding about the 5G specifications right now. Obviously, right now, since the standard is not frozen, yeah, so the 5G trial right now in China, I think maybe end of this year, yeah, when the standard is finalized. So we will do some real trials with the verticals, and maybe we can get better understanding, and for the 3GPP, which is more satisfied with URC, and maybe give some suggestions and some feedback to the 3GPP specifications. But right now, I think maybe still need some time.
Okay, thank you, Madame Wang. This is very clear now that all the flexibility and the alternative configurations that we have talked about are fantastic from the point of view of addressing many use cases. But then when you go and actually try out some of these, even agreeing on specifications and frame format, it becomes a difficult task. So let me move to Korea because, and Dr. Wang, because vertical integration depends on geography in a sense, and every country and every region can have its own specific characteristics. And we know that the industrial texture in Korea is quite unique in the sense that you have large companies which integrate already different industrial sectors, and maybe that is a place in the world where this vertical use of 5G technologies could start first. What is your take on this point?
Early in the morning, the Professor Hyun Lee mentioned about the vertical industries situation in Korea. Also, the GEA Korea Foundation has 7 years some project, actually, government funded more than $400 million is coming from the government. And the first phase is the main target is the Pyeongchang trial. So we have some opportunity for the possibilities of the 5G technology. But from now on, and then we are really seeking for what's the real use case for vertical industries. We are just going back to the fixed line, the broadband services. When the ADSL is coming from is almost 15 years ago, and then everybody can be very surprised, and then going to the VDSL and the fiber to home, and then no more like bandwidth like more than 100 megabits level, and then everybody can be satisfied more than 59% of the all use cases is already satisfied, and then it's very hard to innovate something new like the cases. I think that in the mobile industries is very similar cases happen. In the LTE is coming from this 3G. And then everybody is satisfied with all use cases. But using the 5G technology, we are seeking for more than 1 or 2 years, and then what's the new services. And then we have many scenarios, and then Dr. Lee mentioned about that. And then almost more than 90% of the use cases is already satisfied with the LTE, also LTE, the advances. So now the government is start from how about the new vertical industries, and then we are seeking for many cases, and we have found just 5 areas, like he mentioned about already, the autonomous driving and the AR, VR, and the smart factory and smart city. In the whole major opportunity for the 5G cases, like she mentioned about the EMBB or like URLC and MFTC technologies. And still, we are more aggressively seeking for the new use cases for 2.5 years. We just invested $80 million. I think that everybody mentioned about the whole technologies, but everybody was missing the one point. I think that the device innovation is very also important. For example, everybody mentioned the EMBB, and then, but what's the mobile handphone shape of the mobile handphone? I think that even though the 5G technology is coming out, and then if the customer can still use the same device, and what's the difference between 4G and 5G? So, for example, somebody mentioned about the VR, AR, and then I think that more than 4K video will be something coming around there, and then should be the device should be changed the shape. For example, somebody mentioned about the 3D images using the handset, and then we are working with some Samsung display, and they just would like to implement more than 10K video capabilities within the just 5-inch handset, which means not the exaggerating the 3D the videos coming, just native, very some the native 3D images coming from the streaming from the server to the video handset, and then also watch the 3D images, and then just release some the dividing by for example one video, and for implementing 3D images, and then we have to more than 20 to 25 images in the simultaneously, and then just mixing the single images in the handset. So they made us the device point. If the device innovation has not coming, and then I think that is very some the difference from the 4G technology and the 5G technology. That's my point.
Okay, thank you very much. The point of view of devices is actually something that we have not discussed much, but is very important for the success of any new technology. Mats, since as I introduced, you are a person that has a vision of all the regions in the world, so my question to you would be, can you really tell us what you see different in the different regions, like say North America, Europe, and Asia, in their approach towards this integration with verticals? What are the difficulties that you see in the different parts of the world? Is there anything that you could say it's a common thread, or anything that is specific in a regional sense? Mats.
More than happy to do that. Yeah, first I would say, with being with the Ericsson Research, and the future started many years ago. To give a little bit of context what we are doing in our industry programs, which I'm focusing to. So when we realized all these new use cases, which I think we have a common view of, that we have seen similar use cases presented, we decided actually something brave to be in a research organization. We decided to leave the office and engage with different industries and do joint research with them to learn the challenges and to understand what requirements they have, which we can feed back to the standardization process and to our product development, of course, and also bring back to our customers and partners. And I think I'm fully convinced that the industry will be a great driving force for 5G applications. I don't say use cases, because I mean an industry will use a number of different applications in an industry context. They will use massive IoT for sensors and tracking goods and material and people, but also these high reliability and time critical things for robot controls and machine learning and what have you. So I think this will happen because we heard Colin yesterday talking about Industry 4.0, innovated in Germany, and this time we haven't developed the model. The industry developed the model, and we have to support them as good as we can as an industry. So they have actually identified connectivity as a major thing to make Industry 4.0 happen. So I think one of the challenges we have is to package our solutions and services and business models to fit the industry need, because they will not wait for us. They need this to be more efficient, so they will look for this type of technology, and if we can't provide it to them, they will just look into other alternatives. So I think it's pretty urgent that we can present good alternatives for product deployment and services. Having said that, I think you also got different views on different parts of the world. I think Europe has taken a lead with Industry 4.0 to define how the industry should develop for the future. China is also extremely aggressive when it comes to this, with manufacturing 2025. And I think that's the two driving forces in the industry sector. So I think I stay there. Then you have a number of different other use cases, but with respect to time, I think I focus on industries today.
Okay, thank you very much. And let's close the first round. And then again, we're gonna take the mic, take questions from the audience with Takehiro. Operators probably have the most difficult decisions to make in front of this new technology coming in, while 4G, of course, is there running, and all the investments have starting to return, but of course they have to return for many years still. And we are saying that we want to not only have business to consumer markets, but the verticals are B2B. So we're talking about very different business models using the same technology, higher data rates, higher traffic, but that will not mean larger margins for operators. So a very difficult and complex situation. What is your view on this coexistence of different business models for the operators of the future?
Okay, so yeah, that's a very difficult question. Actually, 5G radio systems, from the beginning, we developed the concept and the specifications to adapt the variety of the industries. So in that sense, the radio technology point of view, radio system point of view, that's very flexible, I believe. But end-to-end services point of view, maybe we need to consider the several kinds of the platform or something. And business point of view, it will be a little bit difficult to provide efficient and reasonable price services to the variety of the industries. But that should be challenges for the operators like us. Yes, but yeah, even in the previous discussion, we had we treated some topic on the platform, flexible platform. Yes, flexible platform is very important, I think. Not only the radio system, but also the whole of the flexible platform is very essential. But how to develop it with a reasonable cost? That's a challenging issue, and we need to solve the issues with the, our partners, vendors, many of the vendors. And yes, I hope that maybe we can find good solutions to have a flexible platform and flexible systems, network systems.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, from the audience, any topics that we haven't touched upon yet, or any details, please? You have a question here?
Yeah, thank you. Just some question before we close.
Please say your name and company.
Okay, that is Ika from Media Tech. Just as the moderator mentioned, we haven't discussed the device too much. We discussed a lot about the network, and we know the 5G is a super flexible system. We can cover many different scenarios. And just wonder, I think maybe you know that in 3GPP, even the UE category have been discussed almost 1 year, but still cannot be concluded today. But we are now reaching the commercialization very soon. So just wonder if you have any worry that the 5G device market might be fragmented and have more difficulty to reach the economy of scale that will indirectly avoid the growing of the 5G ecosystem.
Okay, so this is a very critical question about fragmentation of the user terminal market. Also in view of the fact that we are starting in some regions commercialization before the standard is actually frozen. So what is your take on this? Who wants to have first say? Simone, please.
Yes, so of course from a vendor side, we are in close discussion with all the chipset vendor, and of course there are some solutions available which are pre-standard, which have been developed as a pre-standard, like we have also developed a pre-standard 5G solution for various trials. But of course, various chipset vendors might have a bit different timeline in the delivery and in the availability of But I see from what is visible to me, I mean the timeline that we are mentioning from vendor side and from the chipset side, I think they are well aligned. So basically, with the second half of this year, it will be available. Also, without making names, but it will be available also the chipset side.
Dr. Gweon, do you think that this fragmentation might open up the door for some new manufacturers? So maybe the giants will be also, we have collateral ecosystem with companies focusing on a specific device for a specific application. Do you think that's possible in the future, or we will have larger and larger actors?
I think that everybody says that the first application for 5G should be some AR, VR, or MR. But I saw the many devices, but the one device is very impressive to me. For example, Microsoft HoloLens type. But still, a lot of some the problems, a lot of some the issues on it. For example, viewing angle is only very narrow, so also the resolution is still have to improve. Which means even though they would like some have the better services and better services, but the customers like the level should be very on the higher. Which means they have to make the different like devices on it, and then still the 4G and 5G we have some common like applications on it, and then they can be maybe improve this and the reduce some better. But I think that for the innovations, they have to make some very innovative the devices very exclusive to only 5G applications, like benefit for like EMBD or low latency. For example, immersive services. What does it mean, immersive services? Even though some the real and the virtual world, we cannot differentiate the two words. For example, near distance here. For example, Nakamura-san has mentioned about the more than 100 kilometers distance, and then we can feel the same. That's kind of the immersive surface. For satisfying the kind of immersive surface, we have to make some real device that should be coming out. That's my point of view.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question from the floor. Okay, over there. Bernard Barani from the European Commission. So we save that time. No, don't stand up yet. We still have 2 minutes.
Thanks a lot, Giovanni. Since you started with the introduction of 3GPP status and what is happening there, now 3GPP is going to decide about release 16th in June. So there will be a number of decisions to be made. If I remember well, there is a huge amount of subjects which are on the agenda, which are potentially to be considered as subject to be handled under release 16. So from your perspective, what are the priority subjects which should be taken up at 3GPP level to support better the vertical use cases?
Okay, more or less, that was the first question, but Mats has an answer from that. You have an answer of that?
No, I'm not directly involved in the 3GPP standardization, but from a user point of view, I think someone said that yesterday as well, sometimes it's better to start digging where it stands. And many applications can of course be utilized that we're using today's technology as well. But I think for the standardization, the low latency and these type of requirements must come up pretty quickly, because we need to live up to the expectations on the 5G from all these new industries who wants to use it.
Okay, so low latency, mobile edge computing, and think of the investment that you need to enable mobile edge computing. We still have 48 seconds. I want to touch upon one topic that has not been discussed at all, which is sustainability. One of the key performance indicators in the development of 5G is really that we need to reduce energy consumption, but we haven't talked about that at all. And if we don't do that, maybe the overall system will not be able to sustain that. So I don't know from Docomo's point of view, Nakamura-san, if you have any view on the energy element for for these future networks?
Yeah, of course that is a very important topic, but I think that the higher performance is much better.
I know, but performance also needs energy.
For now, yeah. But for the future, of course, we need to consider the very low energy consumption devices, both base station and the terminals. We need,
Thank you very much. And a final word from Madame Wang. What do you take away from this 1 day and a half? What was the most important message to you that you could extract from this meeting?
I think there's too many issues and topics we covered for this 1.5 day. So for this summit, since it is the 5th summit, I think the 5G is coming closer more and more to us. So mostly all these topics will more focus on the services and applications, and a lot of discussion about these issues. So it seems a quite common view from most of those regions for the application priorities, those most important scenarios for 5G right now. Mostly, I think there are similar scenarios. That's I think that was quite good for us. But of course, I think really for 5G successful, maybe we should still many challenges facing for us. I think this year is quite important year for the new standards and also the 5G product development. So we hope all these industries, especially for 5G, can work together to make the 5G as a very successful platform for the society. And later on, of course, very important is still continue our work with the vertical and make it more successful in 5G.
Thank you. So 2018 is a critical year, and it's a privilege to be here. So please join me in giving a hand to our panelists.